In a sprawling modern city where gleaming glass towers dominate the skyline, life flows with luxury. Brand new cars, the latest smartphones, and laughter fill the air as people live in a world where money solves almost every problem. But just beyond the city center lies a stark contrast. Rows of crumbling tin-roofed shacks, where the air is thick with dust, and people live with the constant weight of scarcity. Here, survival is a daily struggle, with the choice between food and medicine always looming. Sophia, 42, is the epitome of success. Well-dressed and poised, her world revolves around shopping sprees, private medical care, and lavish vacations. Recently diagnosed with a minor health issue, she's unshaken. Her wealth ensures she has access to the best care money can buy. Little does she know, her world of comfort is about to collide with an unexpected reality. Arun, 34, has spent his life working manual labor in a dilapidated neighborhood. He battles a chronic illness that keeps him awake at night, but he can't afford the treatment he needs. His only option is the overcrowded public hospital, where resources are scarce and doctors barely have time to listen. Despite his circumstances, Arun's determination to survive remains strong. On a crisp morning, Sophia stepped out of her luxury condo, a fresh bouquet of roses in hand, heading toward the waiting limousine. She smiled at the doorman, who nodded respectfully as she slid into the back seat. The car whisked her through the city, past parks and clean streets, until they reached one of the most prestigious private hospitals in the area. As she entered the pristine lobby, the marble floors gleamed, reflecting the sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. The receptionist greeted her by name, offering her a seat in a plush armchair. Soft classical music played in the background as she waited for her appointment, enjoying the comfort of a warm drink served in an elegant porcelain cup. The doctor, a distinguished man in a sharp suit, entered with a warm smile. They exchanged pleasantries before diving into her diagnosis, which was, as expected, minor and easily treatable. With a few prescriptions and a follow-up in a month, Sophia was on her way, knowing she'd never have to worry about her health for long. Sophia, to herself, with a hint of amusement when you have the means to fix it. Meanwhile, in the outskirts of the city, Arun woke early to the sound of roosters crowing. His small, weathered home had little comfort, but it was all he could afford. His wife Ati handed him a small bowl of rice before he left for work. The same routine they had followed for years. But today was different. Today, the ache in his chest had worsened. With no choice but to endure, Arun made his way to the public hospital. The journey took him through narrow streets littered with trash, past families squatting by the side of the road, their children playing with whatever scraps they could find. The hospital, when he finally reached it, was a grim sight. A crumbling building with peeling paint, overcrowded with people sitting on the floor, waiting for their turn. The air inside smelled of antiseptic and sweat, a stark contrast to the luxury Sophia had just experienced. Arun was handed a clipboard with a pile of forms, but no one was there to explain them. He waited for hours before finally being seen by a doctor, a harried, tired man who barely looked up from his notes. "Doctor, your condition is common, but we don't have the resources for proper treatment. Just take these pills and try to rest." Arun left the hospital with a prescription in hand, but his heart sank. The medicine would help for a while, but he knew it wasn't a solution. In a place like this, survival wasn't guaranteed, let alone quality care. Arun, to himself, feeling a lump form in his throat. Why is my health worth less? The sharp distinction between the two worlds was undeniable. While Sophia's life was cushioned by the comfort of wealth, Arun's world was defined by the harsh reality of poverty. The disparity wasn't just in the quality of care they received, it was in the very way they viewed their own lives. Sophia's easy access to healthcare allowed her to view it as a minor inconvenience, something that could be easily fixed with the right connections. Arun, on the other hand, had no such luxury. For him, healthcare was a privilege he couldn't afford, a dream that felt further and further out of reach as his illness persisted. The gap between them, however, was not just financial. It was something far deeper. A matter of fate, a cruel twist of circumstance had placed them in opposite ends of the spectrum, but neither of them had yet understood how their lives would soon collide. As Arun sat in the waiting area of the overcrowded public hospital, his frustration grew. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was being pushed aside, that his suffering was invisible. The hours of waiting, the lack of proper care, it was all too much. As he shifted in his chair, trying to find a more comfortable position, a figure approached him. It was Dr. Mira, a middle-aged woman who had worked at the hospital for years. She noticed the weariness in Arun's eyes, the frustration that seemed to hang over him like a cloud. She had seen countless patients like him, people who worked tirelessly to survive but were ignored when it came to their health. She took a seat beside him, offering a warm yet sympathetic smile. "Dr. Mira, I can see you're not happy with the care you're getting here, and I don't blame you. The truth is, even we can't provide the best care with the resources available in this hospital. But you shouldn't neglect your health. There are community healthcare programs that might be able to offer you some help. They may not be perfect, but they're better than nothing." Arun listened closely, grateful for her compassion, though the system's limitations seemed to loom large in his mind. Dr. Mira's words were a lifeline, but the thought of navigating another bureaucratic system filled him with dread. Sophia had been sitting in the waiting room of a private clinic when her phone buzzed with a notification. She had just finished a meeting with her personal physician and was in the process of scheduling her next appointment when she caught a glimpse of something unsettling. Across the room, she noticed a man, a patient, sitting on a bench, clearly distressed. His clothes were simple, and he looked as though he had been waiting for hours. She heard bits and pieces of a conversation between him and the doctor. There was something about the state of the hospital, the lack of resources, and the heavy burden this man seemed to carry on his shoulders. Sophia couldn't help but listen in. The exchange between the doctor and the patient, Arun, struck her deeply. She felt a tug of guilt, a sense of unease. How was it possible that someone could be so desperate for help, yet have so little access to what she had so easily taken for granted? Sophia, thinking to herself, why does it have to be this way? Why should anyone have to suffer just because they were born into a different situation? I have everything I need at my fingertips, and yet here, in the same city, someone is denied the very thing I take for granted. Maybe I should do something to help people like Arun. As the idea began to take root in her mind, a deep inner conflict arose. She had always lived in a world where money could solve most problems. But the realization that some people didn't even have the opportunity to access basic health care shook her. Could she, someone who had never known true hardship, do anything to fix this injustice? Would her wealth and privilege truly be enough to make a difference? Meanwhile, Arun, after the doctor's advice, was determined to find a way out of his situation. The words of Dr. Mira echoed in his mind as he set out to find the community health programs she had mentioned. It wasn't easy. He had to sift through government pages, find contacts, and make phone calls, all while balancing his grueling job. But after weeks of searching, he finally found an affordable treatment option. It wasn't as fancy as the hospitals Sophia frequented, but it was something he could afford. For the first time in years, he felt a sense of hope. As the months passed, the seeds of change began to sprout. Inspired by what she had witnessed, Sophia reached out to several charitable organizations and began funding community healthcare initiatives. She worked with Dr. Mira and other professionals to ensure that public hospitals could access better resources and support. She also started a foundation to help bridge the gap in healthcare for those who could not afford basic treatment. Arun, now with regular treatment, started feeling stronger. The program he had found provided consistent care, and his condition began to improve. He no longer felt invisible, and for the first time in years, he didn't wake up in fear every morning, wondering whether his illness would get the best of him. As the collaboration between private donors like Sophia and public health programs grew, more and more people in Arun's community gained access to quality health care. The transformation wasn't instant, but it was steady, and every day brought a new victory. Closing message: health is priceless, and everyone deserves a fair shot at it. The wealth gap should never determine who gets to live a healthy life. Whether you are rich or poor, you have the right to care for your body, mind, and spirit. Health is not a privilege, it's a right for all, and no one, no matter their circumstances, should be left behind.